All right. Good night, everyone. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night on YouTube. Good night on TikTok. Good night, everyone. So far, good night. All right, we're definitely off to a completely late start tonight. Um, Let me know if you can hear me. We're off to a late start tonight, but we're still sure. Welcome, welcome, welcome all. Let's share and let others know that Done Order the Law is now live on YouTube and also on TikTok. Share that so others can be aware that we are now live. Because we have some interesting topics to discuss tonight. One of the topics of tonight is we're going to be looking at is that we're going to be looking at the constitutional right to freedom of expression. Yes, we're going to be looking at when it is actually lawful for you to can tell somebody bad with them and how to say it. And we are also going to be looking at the transport sector. That's a public transport sector and the laws governing that sector so that the transport operators can have a better understanding. All right. So yeah, so Done Order Law has done extensive research, reviewed a lot of case laws. Let's give it a few so others can join. And we will get this party started shortly. All right. So let's share so others can know that we're live right here. Right. Hey guys, as I said, I'm off to a late start tonight. There's a lot of work to do, so I actually got settled in late. So here I am. Here I am. Whew, and it's still hot. Let's send the shares. Let's get as many people here as possible, and then we'll get into it. I really don't want, it's an important topic like many other topics to be discussed tonight. I don't want others to miss the important elements of the discussion tonight. So again, tonight, as you can see, we're going to be focused on, the transport sector for one, how things are going in that sector, the laws that governs, and all of the questions are out there by transport operators. A lot of them have been sending messages. So we're here to clarify a lot of that position tonight. And also, critically, we're going to look at the right to freedom of expression and when you can literally just tell somebody to F off or something. There is actually a lawful way to say that, to use what is called indecent language. There is a lawful way to use them. It is just for you to know how and when to use what is normally referred to as indecent language. So I know a lot of you have heard the misconceptions that, you can't use indecent language, you can't use it to police, you can't use it to soldier, you can't use it to nobody at all. Well, I'm here to tell you that tonight and to show you all tonight that in fact you can use indecent language in this country. So what is called indecent language, and that's what I'm referring to as indecent language, like F off and them language, right? There are ways to use them, and I'm going to be showing you that. Additionally, as it relates to the transport sector, we're going to look at some very critical issues affecting that sector. so on and so forth. So let's give it another 2 minutes. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Keep your seats warm. Let's give it another 2 minutes or so, maybe less, so others can join, and then we will get into it. Let me see this question in the meantime. The question from on TikTok. This is a question on TikTok. Isaac R. When and who exactly can carry out a spot check? Interesting question, Isaac. And because that does not fall necessarily into the topic for tonight, I'm going to answer the question for you, all right? Because we're not going into the topic for tonight yet until I see enough people that are here. So to answer Isaac Carr's question on TikTok, which is when and who exactly can carry out a spot check. Now, we have to be careful of the word spot check. Spot check is otherwise called when you look at the police in public interaction policy, a spot check, that procedure that is normally referred to as a spot check, is what comes under what is called stop and search / vehicular checkpoint. All right. Now, in a stop and search / vehicular checkpoint, which is what they refer to as a spot check, where I believe a lot of misconception comes from is the Transport Authority Act, which we're actually going to be looking at tonight for the taxi operators. So we're going to hold that part for now. Now, because that's where I believe the general misconception comes from, all right? Because I'm not seeing it anywhere. Now, a spot check, it's like a vehicular checkpoint, can be conducted here. The question is exactly who can carry a spot check? First thing for a vehicular checkpoint is a vehicular checkpoint can be conducted by a constable who is in uniform. I repeat, a constable who is in uniform can carry out a spot check / a vehicular checkpoint. All right. Now, or a constable, and that uniform is a standard red seam. If it's sergeant or below, and if it's a rank, one of those other ranks inspector going up, it can be, they must be in their khaki, with all the other things attached, like their ranks and all of that. And it can also be conducted by an inspector or constables, operational constables that are wearing the blue / denim uniform. The key to this, though, in answering your question, Isaac R, for yourself and others, is that the constable who is carrying out the spot check must not just be in the red seam or the denim or the khaki suit. The constables in red seam or denim must, and I repeat for emphasis, must have regulation numbers displayed. Otherwise called them badge number, must be displayed and visible. If it is not visible, if it is not being displayed, that constable has no lawful authority to conduct a spot check. All right? Such a vehicular checkpoint. That is a fact. All right? So whether they're wearing denim or the red seam, the constable must have regulation number displayed. All right? If the constable is in denim, the constable must be wearing that that yellow green type, vest marked police, and even when they're wearing that vest, the regulation number must be displayed. If that is not being displayed, take you say Jeremy and done out the law. Tell you say a constable has no lawful authority to conduct a vehicular checkpoint such a stop and search, such a spot check. All right. So I hope I answered your question right there. Jeffrey Hunter on YouTube. Good day. I know there is a lot to be learned, but in order not to lose your listeners, hopefully you can. Yeah, man. Definitely, Jeffrey. We're going to try to keep it down to within the hour time, for sure. All right. Johan Winter on YouTube. Do I have a right to tell the police my occupation? They normally ask that question. If you have a right to tell them, to answer your question, yes. Yes, you do have a right to tell them. All right? You can tell them if you want. You can tell them. All right, so actually, I'm going to now go into the night's scheduled activities, which, as I said, and that will lead to the question that was asked earlier on TikTok. So good night again, everyone. Tonight, we're going to be discussing as quickly as we can, and we're trying to keep it based on recommendation, not just from you and Hunter, but others, we're going to try to keep live down to an hour and no more than an hour for each time it is done. So let's get to it. The question as to the public transport sector. Now, it's important that we understand in the public transport sector that there are two pieces of laws, main pieces of laws that governs public transport sector. One, and the first key law that governs the public transport sector is the Transport Authority Act and the regulation from that act, as well as the Road Traffic Act and the regulations that comes from that act. All right, so those are the two key pieces of laws and regulation. All right, acts and regulations: Transport Authority Act and regulation, Road Traffic Act and regulation. Now, it is important for you all to understand in basic terms that the Transport Authority Act is a special piece of law that governs public transport. Therefore, the terms based on the principle in law that a specific statute takes precedence over a general one, anything the Transport Authority Act says takes precedence over any other law governing the public transport sector. Is that clear? Now, if you look at the terms of the Transport Authority Act, you will recognize that the Transport Authority Act in section 13 specifies when, under what condition, who can stop you. That's a public transport. It specifies that a constable or an inspector, and that is an inspector of the Transport Authority, may stop public passenger vehicles, or it can stop a private vehicle, which is commonly referred to as a white plate, if there is reasonable suspicion that it is operating as a taxi or like a public passenger vehicle. All right, work with me. So the only time the Transport Authority Act gives a transport authority, a constable under that act, or a transport authority inspector the power to stop a white plate is if they have a reasonable suspicion that you're operating as a taxi. It's important for you to know that case law in this country has made it clear that that reasonable suspicion cannot be as a result of some prior thing that happened. So I can't, because of something you see yesterday, it must be something that is seen at that time. If it is not some way in which the vehicle is being operated or some information received at that time, case law in this court from the Supreme Court has made it clear that any such observation that an inspector or a constable may try to use predating the day in question, or even if it was hours before when that observation was made, it would not be regarded as reasonable suspicion of operating a public passenger vehicle. All right? Now, as it relates to a taxi, taxis are heavily regulated and are regulated by the Transport Authority Act. This act specifies in section A, I'm going to read for you here, in section 13 subsection A, that an inspector or a constable may, at any time, and it's critical for you to understand that word, the language used, at any time, stop and inspect any public passenger vehicle to ensure compliance with the terms of the road license and any relevant road traffic enactment. All right? So what that means? If you're operating a public passenger vehicle, the Transport Authority inspector or a constable under the Transport Authority Act does have the power to stop, to check for compliance with the terms of your license or the Road Traffic Act and regulations. They can stop you to check if you're compliant with the terms of your license as well as the Road Traffic Act and regulations. Is that clear? Now, with that said, the wording of the statute suggests that they can do it without, in that section suggests that they can do it without there being any reasonable suspicion of any offense. All right? Now, I want you to understand why the state could have passed such a law and enact such a provision. The state can pass such a law governing the public transport sector because of this constitutional provision. If one were to read section 13, chapter 3 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom of the Constitution of Jamaica, that section makes it clear that the rights of one does not trump the rights of many. And in so saying, the government, the state, has been given an outright duty under the Constitution to protect the public's interest. Everybody follow? Because the Constitution gives the state a duty to protect the public's interest, then what it means is that once you're operating a public passenger vehicle, your constitutional rights, for the most parts, won't trump the rights of many. Following it? Gets more interesting. So then, as a result of the state's obligation to protect the rights of many by way of the Constitution, when you're operating a public passenger vehicle, again, your vehicle is regulated by the Transport Authority Act and regulation, as well as the Road Traffic Act and regulations. Clear? Now, with that said, there is further provision that states that though that section seems to say that it can be done at random, there is a further section in the Transport Authority Act which speaks to when a Transport Authority inspector may be sued, just like in the Constabulary Force Act. In that section, it states that the Transport Authority inspector may be sued, and in your suit, you must state that the action that was taken was done either maliciously or without reasonable or probable cause. All right? So, what that means is that when you look at the entirety of the act, the inspector, though the terms of section 13, subsection A, and so on, may appear to convey a power to arbitrarily stop a vehicle to determine compliance with the terms of the license or the Road Traffic Act, there is a further burden placed on a constable or the Transport Authority inspector to have reasonable or probable cause and or not to act maliciously. So, again, what does it mean to have reasonable probable cause? There must be grounds to support facts, to support taking an action. Yes? What is your basis for taking this action? Are you stopping the taxi because you feel like? Are you stopping the taxi because you have the power to do so? If that's the reason you're doing it, you do not, as an inspector or the police, have reasonable or probable cause. Is that clear, viewers? I repeat, if the reason the Transport Authority inspector or the police is going to stop a taxi on the road is because he or she feel like he or she has the power to do so, then, or because he or she just feel like oh, I want to stop the taxi there, or he or she don't like the color of the taxi there, then I am saying to you all, inclusive of the taxi operators who are on here tonight, that said inspector would have no lawful basis to act. Though, as I said earlier, the rights of many does not trump the rights of, the rights of one does not trump the rights of many. You still have rights, and you have a right not to be arbitrarily acted on or against by any public official. The actions that a public official is taking must be consistent with the objective or the purpose that that statute gave that power to said official. So there can't be any arbitrary action. Otherwise, if the action was not taken because of some protection of the rights of many, but like I said, because him feel like, or because him just not like you, or some of them reason they, then your rights would have been infringed on. And that's how your constitutional rights are infringed as a taxi operator. Everybody follow me so far? Everybody follow me so far? Thumbs up if you're following me so far or something. Trying to be as clear as I can here. All right? Continuing. So, remember now, as I close this element, the Transport Authority Act and Regulation, which is the Transport Authority Regulation 1988, those two pieces of law gives the power to the police or an inspector to stop a vehicle, a public passenger vehicle, to determine if they're compliant with the terms of the Road Traffic Act or the terms of their license. All right? However, there is a further section, I don't remember it from the top of my head right now, which speaks to, you can just go Google that law and you will see it, which speaks to when a Transport Authority inspector or a constable may be sued for taking action under the Transport Authority Act. And that section says, if the constable or the inspector acted out of malice or without reasonable or probable cause, then inspector may be sued and liable in damages. Is that clear? So no arbitrary action can be taken. The action must be taken with due regard for the purpose for which that section or that power was given. Nothing else. All right? Cool. Now, having said that, there are other reasons powers given to the Transport Authority inspector. Now, importantly for you to understand, viewers, is that the Transport Authority Regulations 1988 speaks to when and who as an inspector can stop you. Now listen up. Just like the police, the inspector must be in uniform. The regulation, that is the Transport Authority Regulation 1988, defines what the uniform is, and it comprises of pants, shirt, hat, badge, blah. Yes? If the inspector does not have those things on, they have no lawful authority to stop your vehicle. Is that clear? That is the law. No lawful authority to stop your vehicle. And we're talking about a public passenger vehicle. Because the Transport Authority Act gives no power to a constable or a Transport Authority inspector to stop any private vehicle, save and except if they have reasonable suspicion that you're operating a public passenger vehicle. Nothing. No other reason. All right? So, unlike a taxi, where the law, and this is a special law, gives the power to a Transport Authority inspector to stop a public passenger vehicle to determine compliance with the terms of license or Road Traffic Act, there is no law, Road Traffic Act or otherwise, that gives any constable any power to stop any vehicle, any private vehicle at random to determine compliance with the Road Traffic Act or otherwise. There's no such law that conveys that power. And so any concept that say otherwise to the private vehicle operators who are on here, take you say, miss it. I lie them I tell. All right? And if them can show me the law where give that power, then we take back my statement. But we never seen on it. All right? Continuing. Now, it is important that you transport operators understand that there are different classes of public passenger vehicles. Whole heap of them. Anki carriage, route taxi, stage carriage, blah, blah, blah. We all get it on and on. Now, it is critical, express carriage, all of those. It is critical for us to understand, transport operators, that there is a section of law, because I've heard many of you are repeating this issue and saying it to me, Mr. Dunn, yellow painted sidewalk, we can't stop a bus. These are the people who are operating, what they call it, the Anki carriages in Kingston, specifically. A lot of you keep saying, Mr. Dunn, every time they must stop, when they give a ticket to stop at the yellow painted sidewalk, we can't stop at the bus park, we don't have any bus stop to stop. So where we must stop, Mr. Dunn, where we must stop? Well, here right now, listen up. Transport Authority Regulation 1988, section 9, subsection 2. A driver may take up or set down passengers other than at the specified points mentioned in that paragraph. A, where the service provided is not a stage or express carriage service, or where no such signs are provided along the route. Let me just say in a layman terms. For the Anki carriage public passenger vehicle operators, what that section 9 subsection 2 of the Transport Authority Regulations 1988 states is that where there is a sign marked bus stop or route taxi, only them can stop this. But where there is no sign as stated with marked route taxi or bus stop, then the Anki carriage can't stop anyway. Watching the face. Watching the face now. Watching the face. And this regulation is a law that has express provision that prohibits the taxis, the Anki carriage, from stopping at where them see a bus stop sign or a route taxi sign. Yeah? However, that section 9, subsection 2 of the Transport Authority Regulations 1988 states in clear language that the Anki carriage, because we don't have, let's say, oh, not going to stop. Everyone to stop, then going to ticket. Well, the Transport Authority Regulations say, you can't stop anywhere else. I don't say so. Who want to drop down the throat? All right? I don't say so. It says you can't stop anywhere else. Let me repeat the language again. Yeah? It said where the service provided is not a stage or express carriage service. You can take up on this again. A driver may take up or set down passengers other than at the specified points mentioned in that paragraph, where the service provided is not a stage or express carriage, which means if it not mark route taxi sign there or bus stop, you can take up a passenger or let them off anywhere. But here one of the problems them with the Anki carriage I'm having now. You have to remember that an Anki carriage is not a road taxi. An Anki carriage is designed for hire purposes. And this for hire, they charge one fare, one rate. It's not, though the regulation permits you to stop and pick up passengers anywhere else that does not have a sign marked route taxi or bus stop, You have to recall that an anti-carriage is not for picking up different disconnected passengers. Its purpose, designed by law, is to carry up to four passengers, up to four passengers, all with a connected interest. But yes, you can stop and pick up anywhere else that don't have those signs, route taxi or bus stop displayed. And what would that mean to me? Even the yellow painted sidewalks. Pursuant to the Transport Authority Act. Remember, special law takes precedence over general law. The Transport Authority Act and Regulation is a special piece of two pieces of special legislation that were developed for the public transport sector. No make nobody telling about no other general law. We talk about no municipal corporation probably have no bylaw. We say otherwise. Interpretation of law suggests clearly that special laws developed by Parliament trump general laws. The same way the constables like to arrest people for offenses that are ticketable. When you do that, that's an unlawful arrest. They say, under the Constabulary Force Act, I can arrest anybody committing an offense. Listen, the Road Traffic Act stipulates, and the Transport Authority Act stipulates how you deal with the procedure for dealing with. Though it say you may issue a ticket, that is the procedure. Issue a ticket, not arrest. Follow me, gentle people? So special laws developed by Parliament trumps any general law. So if a general law say you can't take a passenger, the public transport law that governs public passenger vehicles say anti-carriage can take a passenger anywhere else that don't have the sign bus stop or route taxi signs marked there. All right? Remember, guys, 4 passengers only, and up to 4 passengers only, and you also must, it's only one, it's a contract. So you're not supposed to collect a different fare. Contract, okay? Good. So otherwise you're acting contrary to your road license, all right? Great. Any questions there? Any other questions there so far? Everybody following? Give me a thumbs up if you're following, all right? Give us a thumbs up if you're following. Listen, mind me? No, man, I'm just here to spell the truth, all right? So there are advantage and disadvantage of both, you know. Route taxi has to be along a certain route. Route taxi can't pick up anywhere. Route taxis are only lawful to pick up passengers where there is a route taxi sign marked there or the bus stop sign marked. That's the only place route taxis can lawfully pick up. So there are distinctions between what one can do and what the other can do. And I know that tonight we'll have some clarity on the two. They are not the same thing. They don't operate the same way. Route taxi pick up along a designated route, and they cannot just stop anywhere. They can only stop pursuant to Section 9 of the Transport Authority Regulation 1988. They can only stop at designated signs. All right? Wherever it says taxi, route taxi, or bus stop, that's where they can stop. But the Anki carriage, which I know is a majority of the vehicles in Kingston are Anki carriages, they're licensed, then there you can stop anywhere pursuant to Section 9 of the 9 subsection 2 of Transport Authority Regulation. All right? All right, great. I see the thumbs up all around on YouTube there. I see them on TikTok too. Great. All right, so let's pivot because we're not going over an hour tonight. Now, as it's very critical for us to understand, you know, is that for those who are just coming, the Transport Authority inspector and a constable acting under the Transport Authority Act They cannot act arbitrarily. Their actions must be consistent with the purpose for which the power given was conveyed. So no hunch and no me feel like to stop the one day. Yep. That's why I must always ask them. And for the constables, I know that a constable is bound under the public interaction policy to answer any question posed by the public. Why you stop me? What's your reasonable cause? Why a reasonable? What's a reasonable probable cause? Let them convey. All right. When they stop, I say, "Me have the power to stop you." You shoot yourself in the foot. Yep. It must be that the power is exercised with due regard for the purpose of which a power is conveyed. Cool? All right. So we'll put that aside now because I'm going to take questions. I know many have questions. And I'm going to talk about the constitutional right to freedom of expression. And then I'm going to allow people to box in on TikTok to share, to ask any question that they may or may not have. All right? So the right to freedom of expression is a right. When slavery was abolished years ago, here's a story, you know. When slavery was abolished years ago, before the abolition of slavery, our people were forbearance. Jamaicans could not speak freely. Jamaicans could not move freely. Jamaicans could not do many things, if not anything at all, freely. They first needed the consent / permission of the masters to do the same. By virtue of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom in Jamaica, Jamaicans, after slavery was abolished, the bill that abolished slavery stated in clear language that we shall be free from all forms of slavery, and that the day when slavery was abolished shall forever be celebrated. That's why Emancipation Day is always celebrated, because there's a law that said so. It is a bill that abolished slavery. We, as Jamaicans, inherited as a right the right to freedom of expression, free speech. However, just like anything else, the rights of one does not trump the rights of many. Other people have rights. So the thing must be balanced. There are 2 pieces of law passed in Jamaica that have sections that restricts free speech. They are the Constabulary Force Act, Section 30, and the Town and Communities Act, Section 3. Now, both pieces of law restrict the right to free speech. But you have to read it carefully to recognize that it's not a bill that abolished or abrogated is the right word. Free speech. It did not do that. For a bill or for any law to completely abolish a right conveyed under the Constitution, it needs 2/3 majority in both houses of Parliament. Because that means that they are removing that right altogether. And a 2/3 vote in both houses of Parliament, signed by the Governor General, must carry that bill, not a simple majority passing it. Well, those 2 pieces of law now have them the assent there. It did not abolish the right to free speech in Jamaica. Let's examine the provisions. Section 3 of the Town and Communities Act speaks to that you must not use threatening, abusive, or calumnious language in a public space so as tend to cause a breach of the peace, or any behavior coupled with such threatening, abusive, or calumnious language so as tend to cause a breach of the peace. Here the key thing, that says you must not use threatening or abusive or calumnious language so as tend to cause a breach of the peace. You hear the language? You all should see where I'm going now. It simply means that that section of the Town and Communities Act, Section 3, is saying if you use threatening, abusive, or calumnious language in a way that tend to cause a breach of the peace in the public, in a way that tend to cause a breach of the peace, that is when it's an offense. But if you use it in a way that does not tend to cause a breach of the peace, then it is lawful. Everybody follow? So how do you do it? I'm focusing on Section 3 of the Town and Communities Act. I'm not yet gone to Section 30 of the Constabulary Force Act. So how do you do it? If I'm having an interaction with you right now, and I'm like, hey, F off. No, you know say you're F-free? You know say you're F-free though? You're F-free. You see the language? I am not saying that you're F-free in any way that tend to cause a breach of the peace. So in a if me and you converse, me and you, one-to-one, yo, you're F-free, you know? You're F-free. Or you know, or say I want P-hole, you want P-hole, you know? You want P-hole. See the way? Because of the way how I'm using the language, it is protected free speech. There is the Town and Communities Act does not consider it an offense, because the language has to be used in a way that tend to cause a breach of the peace. Got it? Thumbs up if you follow me so far, people. Thumbs up if you follow me so far. Thumbs up if you follow me so far. Free speech, that's freedom of expression. Marlon Gray on YouTube. All right? Freedom of expression, free speech. So let no constable who is trying to power grab. For example now, if the Town and Communities Act was the only piece of law that exists, and me and a constable interact based on the Town and Communities Act, if that was the only legislation, remember one next one I look on him, then, and I'm interacting with a constable, we can tell him plain and straight, you are F-free. But if I do it in a way so as tend to cause a breach of the peace, then it's an offense. Or if I use such behavior coupled with the language, then it's a breach of the peace. So if Mr. Lesaya is a batty man, if I am not using that language pursuant to Section 3 or pursuant to the Town and Communities Act in any way so as tend to cause a breach of the peace or coupled with any behavior, that is not a breach of the law. Anybody have anything otherwise to say? Go read the law and can tell me the provision that tell me that I am wrong. You can call anybody anything you want. Be careful of defamation though, because the Defamation Act, remember now, you cannot defame somebody who is a nobody, because that's the key word is defame. If the person is not famous, then you can't defame them. So if it's an unfamous person or a person who is not famous, then you can't defame them. So you don't really don't want to call people some words that they are not if they're famous. Because the Defamation Act might catch you. All right? But as long as you never call the person any word or say something to them, pursuant to the Defamation Act, and publish it, that not go so, then you're good. You can tell him anything you want to tell him in front of him. As long as you publish it. Yes? Etc. etc. So, yeah, because that would be to defame them. But if him famous, you tell him, say, in a way that don't tend to cause a breach of the peace. Say, for example, say he's a batty man. You just behave like he's a batty man, for example. Or say, say he's a P-hole, though. You behave like he's a P-hole. You hear the tone? You hear the way I say it? That is not a way that tend to cause a breach of the peace. So when constables like to run with it and go lock up people, if you get a nice fat suit for malicious prosecution, man, people have freedom of expression in this country. Okay? Continuing now to Section 30 of the Constabulary Force Act. Section 30 was amended, so I have to be careful which version I'm reading. Now, the police them like to use Section 30 of the Constabulary Force Act, like in the case of me. Section 30 says, if any person who use threatening, same thing, abusive, calumnious, resist arrest, all of so many things, to a constable in the execution of his duties, commits an offense. So, what the twist with the part, you have to look for now the intention of the statute. Here it says, in the execution of his duties. The intent of the statute is to protect people from situations, constables like situations like this. When you go in a one bar, or you go in a one shop, and you not get service, when we look for the bartender or the supermarket or the shop attendant and say, yo, when up BC clot, hurry up. Yeah? When up BC clot, hurry up. Now, why are you using language? Because you try to intimidate them. The gear where you want. You get it? You go in at the taxi, and you tell the taxi man, for example, let's say it was a constable. When you BC clot, hurry up and drive. Or, yeah, effing idiot, when you hurry up and drive. You mean I do this, Why do you say that? You say that because you are saying it, obviously, to intimidate the taxi operator. Follow me, people? Let's rally back now to who it is important, because Section 30 only applies to constables. There is a provision in the Transport Authority Act similar to the Constabulary Force Act, also taxi operators. All right? So let's look at the Section 30. It says, in the execution of his duties, you are not permitted by law to use threatening, abusive, or calumnious, or resist any arrest, etc. Many other things are listed there. Or in a constable in the execution of his duties. Why? That statute is designed to protect the constable from intimidatory tactics from you. From you saying, hey, you BC clad policeman, hurry up and write your ticket. Hurry up and write your ticket. Or, hey, you is a, derogatory language. You know what I'm saying? Is a dirty old jankro. Derogatory language. That is designed to protect the constable and to hold you at bay, so you don't use those language to try to intimidate the constable. Me know now wait for the kicker now. What the kicker? The kicker is, if the constable is not in the lawful execution of his duties, you can tell him anything you want. So if the duties are being conducted unlawfully, then that statute is not triggered. If you tell him anything you want, based on Section 30 of the Constabulary Force Act, you can tell them anything you want to tell them, so long as they are not lawfully executing their duties. Because that statute not protect them. And that will catch Brian a court. Brian don't know how we play with them. I tell him all the while and the rest of constable them. They see me and sometimes they see me in my slippers and my shorts, I walk. And then I drive a little piece of tea there. And try to judge and feel like say is a nobody that I play with on the road who don't know what's going on. Yes? I continue to remind them that. You know what's in the viewers and subscribers? Me try to remind them, you know who you are dealing with? It's not out of arrogance. It's more like, guys, I don't know everything, but I know a lot. And where I need clarity, I'll go seek it. Yes? So, the constables must be lawfully executing their duties. The same thing happens. If a constable is not lawfully exercising his duties and in charge of a resisting arrest, that can't stick. That can't stick. Because resisting arrest is under that section 2. Section 30. All right? So, everybody must obey the law. The law is there for everybody, constable and the like. So you see when, for example, now, a constable stop me and not have any regulation number, pan him shirt, pan him clothes. From me not seeing a regulation number, me don't know that this is an unlawful action. So therefore, anything me want to tell him from this, I can tell him. Yeah? I'm going to give another one. The constables them don't like to read people when them write them ticket, like on a charge them, I charge them. Them right to remain silent. And remind them that anything them say cannot be used against them in the court of law. So you see, when I tell them anything after that, after them decide to them farm in them mind, so them go charge you, and write one ticket, and you say anything you want to say, none of that can use. Anyway, we're not going further. So even after that, if you tell him pure BBC class, he can't use against you. Because he never read your right to remain silent. And so he can't use against you. I say no more. I am not on here to say everything. There's a TikTok subscription program. Join it, join it, join it, join it. And that's when you can get it. Because I'm not going to be telling the public in these forums every single piece of how it goes. I'll give you a lot. All right? And for those who reach out, I will definitely try to answer as many questions you have. Yeah? All right? Any questions? Thumbs up, guys, if you're following. Thumbs up. Thumbs up for me if you're following. Send something. Send some like. Tap the like button. YouTube, there's so many of you. I keep up and remind YouTube people. Like the live now, man. So the signals can send out. You know, YouTube, TikTok people are always liking. YouTube are just not liking all the time. Like, you have to remind the people on YouTube to press the regular like. Not the, I know there are two different set of like buttons, right? But the one that will go up now on YouTube, right? Press the one there, man, too. All right, so the law, viewers, the law is wide and diverse. And let me tell you, which under Section 30 of the Constable Reforms Act, who have got proofs that they act lawfully, the police and the prosecution. And what I think they have proof say they were acting lawfully. If they can't prove that they were acting lawfully, then dog eat their supper. When they go lay charges under Section 30. And all of us know that I know that that Inspector Brian was not acting lawfully. So make him go out there. All right? All right? Yes. Now, what he has not seen and all of you have not seen is the part of that video that addressed that was dealing with the part when he claims that action so as tend to cause a breach of the peace. That part I didn't publish all now. So him never realize say when that go on appear quiet and peace that go on. Pure blinking in the past. But wait, we will have our day in court. Any questions? So what about Section 37 of what? Respect to all. What about Section 37 of what? The police has no authority to take your driver to seize your driver's license, save and except if your driver's license was suspended or was revoked. You have no authority to seize your driver's license otherwise. All right? Your taxi, yes, your taxi can be seized under the pursuant to the Transport Authority Act if you are operating contrary to your road license. All right? Your taxi can be seized. And that is, the Constitution protects those forms of seizures. Section 15 of the Constitution, Charter of Fundamental Rights, permits those forms of seizures. All right? So there's no constitutional right for your taxi not to be seized if it is because you're acting contrary to your road license. Because technically, to act contrary to your road license is actually is equivalent to acting without a license. All right? And that is one of the situations under which you can. So you want to pay a fee, license your fee to the state, you can seize. Same condition. If you don't pursuant to the Quit Rents Act, if you don't pay your property taxes of 5 years or more, then for at least 5 years, the state can seize your land. Well, it can seize back for them land, can take back full control of the land, but then give you a whole. All right? Mm-hmm. All right. Great. So those are the things that I am here to talk about tonight. I will take any questions that you have now. Any questions? Zane Top Chef, big up yourself, Zane. You're one of the officer critiques, but big up yourself as usual. I appreciate you like anybody else. Private car can seize too. Yeah, man, private car can seize too. If you don't pay your license, that's it. You have to pay your license fees. Your fees, you have to pay the government the taxes. That's the only. Your vehicle cannot be, your private car cannot be seized and not paying insurance. Because that's not government money. But if you don't pay your registration, your vehicle license registration fee, then your vehicle can be seized. All right. Question? Question. Can police randomly stop you under the thing they are saying about national roadblock? I mean, I don't even know what that be. But to answer the questions, again, a police officer must be properly dressed. And by the way, the uniform of the police changed since March. The police uniform is different, but me I tell you now, if no police stop on no see the regulation number displayed, I don't see a constable, because remember now, district constable, constables are different. Marine police is there. Carry on. District constables, sorry, right. District constables are not constables per se. District constables are district constables. Constables are constables. District constables are constables that come under the Rural Police Act. The constables who are called constables are under the Jamaica Constabulary Force Act. Marine police come under the Marine Police Law. Customs police come under Customs Act. So on and so forth. You have to be careful. All of them have different dress codes and different things that they can wear in order to effect a lawful traffic stop. Okay? But one of the key things to look for, if the policeman hide in or transport authority inspector hide and don't have displayed them registration number, not even name tag, not even name, them registration number, they not have no lawful authority to stop your vehicle. Take it, Mrs. They say people like me, when they stop me, I look on them, and them a van and them a hide, or them a show the registration number. Me go on toe to toe with them same, but me don't know so lawful stop. Yep. Me don't know so then I have no lawful authority. Can you know what me know, sir? Because me know so the Constabulary Force Act gives the commissioner sole operational command over the force. And I know that the commissioner in the past and current have maintained rules and specified who can stop, what is uniform to stop must look like. And so if a constable is not properly attired, uniform I mean shirt and blouse and pants, or skirt. Uniform have to do with all the accoutrement that come with it. Yep. Rank, everything, name tag, regulation number, vest, if a denim them and wear like district constables. Yep. All of that comes with uniform. It's same thing applies for the transport authority inspectors. Hat, depending on which uniform, which clothing, which shirt and pants they're wearing, the type of hat must be specific. Otherwise, they have no. The law, the Constabulary Force Act, gives the Commissioner of Police sole operational command over the force. The Commissioner, through some confidential documents which I don't have any privy or I have no rights to see, issues force orders, which everybody is should be aware of. That there are things called force orders. They are not open to the public. They are confidential documents. But public can see them under certain conditions, yes? Like if the court orders so are other conditions, yeah? Which I won't go over right now. But those force orders are the commands from the commissioner. And anything the commissioner says goes. And the commissioner dictates when a constable may, which constable can stop you. So not because the law says a constable may stop you. The commissioner dictates what the constable who can stop you must look like. When or she must be wearing. And if they are not wearing that attire, the stop is therefore unlawful. YouTube, a police squad me section 7 of the road traffic. A police quoted me section 7 of the road traffic act. This is a case Spencer on YouTube. A police quoted me section 7 of the road traffic act, which say about this section. What you say about this section? Section 7 of the road traffic act gives says that you're supposed to basically say you must have registration, fitness, insurance in your vehicle, and on request by a constable in uniform or one who shows his ID, you must produce it. But remember now, that's like I mentioned a while ago. It says one in uniform. You must interpret that provision to mean, it don't mean any constable, you know. It means a constable in a uniform approved by the commissioner to stop vehicles, to request the same. Not every constable, based on their attire, has the authority to stop a vehicle, public passenger or otherwise. All right? It is important for us to know that. And it's all about protecting, you know, it's all about protecting from unscrupulous people who somehow get a hold of denim and all those things and wear them and imitate police, you know, like them a police. It's all about protecting against those type of unscrupulous people acting. So yeah, the public has a right. Those are things the public have a right to know, who may or may not stop, carry out a stop and search. All right. So no, section 7. So section 7 gives the power to request documents. It does not give a power to stop. To request documents. To stop a vehicle is to apprehend the person. To apprehend the person, the Road Traffic Act says, save and except for the direction of traffic. Sorry, the Road Traffic Act allows a police to stop a vehicle under section 91 for the direction of traffic or some reasonable purpose. That's section 91. Okay? Stop you, make a pass for the direction of traffic. To stop, slow down, pass left or right, or some reasonable purpose. Section 7 gives no power to stop. A police under section 13, a constable of the Constabulary Force Act, has the power to apprehend. And apprehend means to arrest or detain any person who we reasonably suspect to have committed an offense, blah, blah, blah. So, if the police is going to stop you under the Road Traffic Act, and it's not for reckless driving or, you know, because there's a traffic warden or those part, and if say must stop you under the Road Traffic Act, it must be for the direction of traffic or some reasonable purpose. That's it. He or she has the power to request the documents pursuant to section 7 or driver's license pursuant to section 20. However, because there's no express power to do so, given the constitutional rights, the freedom of movement, it therefore means that the power to stop, you, such to apprehend your vehicle or to detain you, that's why apprehending, come from, for example, section 13 of the Constabulary Force Act, or it also comes from section 91 of the 91, 92, don't quote me on the one day. Write down there, so, of the Firearm Prohibition Act 2022, or it come from the Custom Act, or it come from the Predial Larceny Act. You see, because all of those special laws are out there that governs, let me tell the police and everybody else something. Because we not try to use Road Traffic Act as a scapegoat for breaching the right to know. But in closing, if no one wants a boxing on TikTok, in closing, a special law takes precedence over every general law. So you see, if Parliament pass one special law, we tell you how you search for stolen agriculture produce, nobody can think so you can use, boy, you go use no Road Traffic Act as no guys figure lawfully stop somebody if a stolen agriculture produce you look for. You better use the procedures under the Predial Larceny Act. And if a firearm you search for, you better use the procedures under the Offensive Weapon Act or Firearm Act. And if you're looking for custom dues stuff, you better use the provisions under the Custom Act. And if you look for general things, you better use section 15, I think, provision under section 15 of the Constabulary Force Act. Because you can't stop people's vehicle. Boy, you search for stolen agriculture. Just right, you know, I'm searching for stolen agriculture produce or firearms and this and that. I'm searching for wanted man. Okay. You better make sure you follow the procedures as set out under those laws. Otherwise, the actions are unlawful. All right? Are masks a part of the police uniform? If the police commissioner approves it. All right. Most crimes are committed by motor vehicles. I don't have the data, but possibly. Possibly. All right? Is VCP unconstitutional? Depending on how it is conducted. If it's just a random check, arbitrarily, without reasonable probable cause, it is unconstitutional. Okay? If it's a public passenger vehicle and the intent is in the interest of public safety, for example, no. I don't see it is unconstitutional. All right. If there are no other questions, you have been a great audience. We're now at the 1 hour mark, and I will see you all next week with more exciting topics and discussions. Done Order the Law. You can catch the rebroadcast on YouTube, which will be posted automatically. It's difficult. I will post, excerpts of this on TikTok, but you have been a great audience. I will see you next week. You can always send the pre-questions, and I will address them in the live if I can. Until then, see you all next week, Saturday, same time, 7:10 p.m. Done Order the Law. Bye-bye.